You are listening to Packers Talk Radio Network.
PackersTalk.com. Eddie Lacy, Mike Daniels, Gilbert Brown, Don Barclay, Micah Hyde, your Green Bay Packers, yesterday's legends and today's superstars. From corporate or non-profit events to private parties, add some spice, hire a Packers player from Mayfield Sports Marketing. For details, just go to PackersTalk.com and click on Player Appearances.
Are you looking for some signed Packer memorabilia?
Look no further than Waukesha Sports Cards.
If the Green Bay Packer can sign it, Waukesha Sports Cards has it.
Check our website for upcoming Packer player and legend signings.
Go to WaukeshaSportsCards.com.
Can't get the stupid intro right. After a 2 or 3 week hiatus, most of December. Hey, we're back. I'm Kelly. It's Out of the Pocket, and joining me as always are the lovely ladies of the fellow Pocketeers, Colleen and Annie. Jay apparently is too crabby to appear because he hated the poop stained games last night more than anybody.
Well, didn't we all? But yes,
yeah,
he is crabby.
Okay. How sad is it when the what you see on the field is the Hot Mess Express, and we are the shining beacon in comparison?
Right?
No doubt. Oh, holy hell!
How sad is it when the kicker is your favorite player?
Yeah, that's pretty sad. Yeah, I knew this was going to happen, and when they flexed it to from noon to the evening game, I'm like, okay, so now I get to be cold and sleep deprived the next day. That's just awesome. Oh, I got home at 2:30 last night, and I'm still smarting from it.
Yes, I don't know who I'm more angry at, the guy at the bar who ate my food.
A guy ate your food? What?
Oh, I have a good
story time. All right, story time before we talk about the game. What happened last night?
Oh,
see, I wasn't social last week because bless me, Father, for I have sinned. I went with a friend to the game instead of my husband, who was a Vikings fan. But he drove, and he was a gracious winner. Okay, so I'm confessing now. I went to the game with a Vikings fan, but he was my ride home. He's the fourth J of my life, by the way. Okay, so somebody ate your food. Let's hear the story.
Yeah, so I went to the game last night, and it was interesting. I rode up on a bus from right by my house to the bar. You can look it up, people. That it's an actual thing. And I went back. I actually ended up leaving before the game was over because I was pacing. I was on the phone with my husband, and I was disturbing Robert and Jenna, who I was sitting with. I love you guys. And I was like, I have to go. So anyway, I go to the bar. I order food because I'm waiting to get back on my bus to come home. And some guy walks up, and he was a Packers fan, and God is my witness, he was not drunk. And he started eating my food.
Excuse me?
And then he says, hey, can I eat some of this? And I was like, you already are. And that's kind of the vibe that was around Lambeau yesterday. So, I'm really not. The only thing that saved him was Mason Crosby causing that fumble, because I would have junk punched him because it happened just about at the same time.
Oh, man, I actually toughed it through the whole game. And, okay, it's bad enough when the Packers lose. It's worse when you're cold. And it's worse when you're surrounded by Vikings fans. So to everybody, yes, one of my tickets went to a Vikings fan friend. He was a gracious winner. But all of the butt weasels in front of us, oh, my God. It's like, you know what? Be gracious. It's not your house. Come on. It wasn't as bad.
That was the other thing that happened is right after this guy did that, I turned around and there's like these 4 or 5 Vikings fans going, ah! And I turned around and I said, stop it. They actually did. I was already hot at the guy for eating my food, so you can imagine my temper at that point. So, yeah. Colleen had fun.
Henry had his birthday party.
Vikings fans.
Henry had his birthday party yesterday, which was super fun until then the Packers failed at life. He was like cute and adorable.
The one positive I can take out of this loss is now I don't have to scramble to find a way to get my kid to a swim meet next week. That's the only positive, because I would have been like, oh, I'm going to a game. You're on your own to find your way halfway to the moon up north. Bye. But now I can take her. So, all right, let's talk about the game instead of all the extraneous stuff. We're really good, but we really are off the rails. Hey, this is the Dead Cactus. You know, bring out your dead, post-game, post-mortem today. So, initial impressions, Annie, what did you think of the game? Other than, yes, it was a big poop stain of a game.
Well, okay. So my thought is that I'm watching it. The defense was, Clayton Matthews III, he had some good stuff going on. Finally, after 2 games with no tackles, I was like, hey, at least he's doing something out there. And so I thought the defense had a fairly decent showing. The Vikings scored some points, but I thought that the defense did all that they really could in the end, other than missing a couple of opportune interceptions. The offense, on the other hand, I tell you what, I do not know, but after Denver, it's just been this trend of crap maliciousness where nobody can get on the same page. Eddie Lacy the last few weeks has been kind of a bright spot, but I don't even know what to say about the offense. I feel like Jordy shouldn't have affected them this much. Like losing him, it's a big deal to lose Jordy because, that makes Randall Cobb the spotlight guy, but he's not really a spotlight guy. He thrives when he has a number 1 receiver who can take a lot of the heat off of him, so then he can kind of sneak into the slot and blah, 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 blah. But, I don't, it's just this trend, including last night, that I'm just watching going, really? We can't figure something out to deal with the lack of Jordy? Talk about a guy who deserves a pay raise. Anyway, so that's my overall impression. Again, the defense was fine. The offense just, again, they're not clicking at all and haven't been for weeks. And I don't see how, unless some drastic changes are made, we go into the playoffs with this and win at all, even in Washington. So,
all right, Colleen, your impressions.
When Mason Crosby is one of your best defensive people, you have a problem. I was glad to see Clay get involved last night because he hasn't made a tackle. That doesn't mean to say he hasn't done anything, but it was just so disheartening to watch, especially the last quarter, because they kind of came back and they almost got there, and then when Mason made that hit, I was like, oh my gosh. They can pull it off. They'll do another Hail Mary. And then Aaron throws those. Aaron Rodgers needs to get out of his head. I really like him. I'm really glad he's our quarterback, and he really needs to get out of his head. I have not been this disappointed by the Packers since I was 20. and back then you expected to be disappointed. So now I'm even more disappointed because I shouldn't have to be disappointed.
My thoughts on it was this was exactly the game we were going to get. I went into it negative, and I really tried not to be negative this year. I'm like, okay, there's always a chance. But it seems like each week the team, especially on offense, regresses more. and it's like they can't get anything done. How many first downs did they get? Maybe a handful, if that's it. We punted more often than not again, and it isn't all on Jordy Nelson being gone. It's not all on the receivers dropping. I think there was one drop, and it was on Cobb last night. We'll go into this more later into the show. It's the tight end not playing much of a role. It's Mike McCarthy finally realizing late into the game that this isn't the line you meant to have, and stop playing it like they're a championship quality line. It's Aaron Rodgers. It's giving up on the running game. It was just a colossal implosion that was like just a train wreck that you could not take your eyes away from. And I guess I'm not disappointed. I am disappointed, but I guess I'm not surprised because this is exactly what I thought would happen. And then Aaron throwing an interception in the end zone for the third time is becoming kind of a summary of what's going on with the offense. You get to the red zone, and then you poop the bed, and it's not a good look for the Packers. It's not a good look for Aaron Rodgers, and we'll talk more about Rodgers in a bit. But, yeah, let's talk about McCarthy at first. Have you guys seen his press conference or at least read about it since it happened today?
Read a bit.
Yeah. I read it.
Colleen.
I was like,
yeah, I read it. I wasn't able to watch it. But, Colleen, why don't you start? What were your impressions of what he had to say?
Well, as I know, I told your brother, my adopted little brother, about a month ago, I think he's lost the team. And I think after what I read today, I didn't actually get to watch it, but I don't know what's going on in his head. You could take him and Aaron and put them in a room, and they probably could work a bunch of stuff out with a therapist. Just whatever's going on, it's not good. But yeah, and I've not always agreed with McCarthy, but I've always had a lot of respect for him. And it's not that I don't have any now, but I do not understand. You cannot sit there and say, well, this team is okay, or, I like to be in this place. No, you don't. Who wants to be in this place? Who wants to be going to play Washington right now? Would you rather not want to? I'm just starting to want to shake him. Like, take him and shake him and by his shoulders and go, what the hell is wrong with you? I don't know you anymore. That's where I'm at with Mike McCarthy.
So, Colleen. The other person, Annie.
Hey, I was more annoyed with the comment about something about I wasn't born with a silver spoon in my mouth, something about being spoiled. And what did that even mean? I'm looking around like, bro, you're kidding, right? Like, for real? Like, I recognize the fact that I am a little young to remember, like, the really, really rough years. But at the same time, like, this is a team that's supposed to be fairly complete and playing at a high level. I don't think that, and I haven't really been super hard on them. Like, I've kind of disengaged a little, honestly. Like, not entirely. I still watch everything and still pay attention. But at the same time, I'm just looking at it like, okay, you know what? This is probably not our year. Okay. But then he's all like, hey, you ain't been born with a silver spoon in my mouth, so I like this and it's fine. And I'm like, okay, now you're just starting to piss me off. So, I don't know. That rubbed me the wrong way. I guess I don't really try not to read too much into things like that, but it was odd to hear him say that. I didn't really understand what the deal was.
A non sequitur it's like a non sequitur. It's like, why do the Packers suck? Because flies can't swim. It's like, what? It didn't make any sense. It was completely, irrelevant. Yeah, you weren't born with a silver spoon in your mouth, so the Packers suck. What? Yeah, I think what made me mad was the comment. And sure, it could just be coach speak, much ado about nothing, about his whole, he likes the position they're in. I'm like, you like being a team that's imploding? That's awesome. And if that's truly what he thinks, he has lost his mind, because he's pretty much admitting that he doesn't realize his own poop stinks. And if you can't have that sense of self-awareness and self-reflection about your team and your performance, you have no sense being there anymore. And, I wrote about it this past week, that McCarthy is often stubborn to a fault. We've known that for years. but has that stubbornness, and we'll talk a little bit later about something that ESPN Homer retweeted. It wasn't his comments. It's third-hand information, but it's an interesting springboard for conversation. Has Mike lost the locker room? I know Colleen alluded to it in a second. What do you think, Annie?
Well, I don't know if it's, yeah. Okay, so he's the coach and the buck stops here. Then you got a bunch of guys who are out there seemingly playing like, they care. Of course they care. But, I feel like there's just a lot of fragmentation. Like, people aren't on the same page, and the play calling is still kind of questionable. The defense is fine. They're probably playing hard for dog capers. But the offense just seems to be kind of just it's like the offense in a slightly crappier parallel universe or something. I don't know, That's all I can. So, yeah, in a sense, I would say he certainly seems to have lost at least a touch of grip on the offense, if nothing, because they seem to be motivated to play for nothing, That just they seem to lack the killer instinct. They have trouble in the red zone. They run the plays, but people, Randall missing some key catches, and I don't know. I feel like there's just that extra oomph that's missing, but that oomph is necessary for this team to have,
So, Colleen, expand on it, what you thought about McCarthy and the locker room issue. You said you might think he might be losing the team.
Well, the only reason that I started thinking that is because, it can happen with any coach. You guys, if you've played organized sports, I've been in a locker room where my coach lost me. It was in high school, and I was a terrible basketball player. But he lost me, and he lost everybody. He lost the good players. I was just on the bench. And you can tell because they bond together very closely, and they don't do what he says, and they don't listen. And I get the sense these guys aren't listening. It's not, I don't know what he's saying. I don't know that he's giving a bad message or a good one. But I really get the sense, especially with Aaron, but I don't think it's just Aaron. It can't be.
I think the line's with Aaron, though.
Right. Well, I think to a certain extent they have aligned with Aaron. And so that tells you something. The thing that scares me, frankly, is Favre got the locker room instead of Holmgren. And coaches thereafter, and that's not necessarily a good thing either. We all saw things that didn't go well as a result of that. But, yeah, I really think that McCarthy may have lost them, whether that was taking back the play calling or giving up the play calling or there's too many cooks in the kitchen on offense. I don't know. But something is not right. There's something so off about this team. On offense.
And I could be totally off on this, and of course I hate it when people speculate, but I'm going to speculate. It seems like McCarthy is trying to regain control with a heavy hand. You got a bunch of alpha males all in one room, and what he's now doing is peeing in the corner like a dog and marking his territory. And he's trying to win by willing them into submission. You have Aaron saying, Jared Abbrederis needs to play more. I trust him. I want to throw to him. And he didn't. I don't think he played a single snap on offense last night. Aaron's saying you got to get the ball to Eddie. Eddie was a non-entity. Packer offense tends to get lit up when the receivers start to get at least 100 yards combined. And Eddie had single digits low again, and they gave up on the run. It seems like, Aaron will publicly say he wants something, and then McCarthy does the opposite. And I think it's getting to be the point where it's going to be Mike's way or the highway. And there's a lot of people saying, well, McCarthy just put a tighter leash on Aaron before he gets out of control. Perhaps it's the other way around. Perhaps he has too much of a leash on him right now, and he is suffocating in it. But, yeah, I'm going to bring up, and, of course, this is all the only reason I bring it up is because that Homer from ESPN Milwaukee put up this tweet, retweeted another person who goes by the name of VJ Ostrovsky about 10 o'clock this morning, talking about a guy that supposedly has connections. These are fake connections. These are all rumors. But it really is a divide with Sitton, Lang, and Rogers on one side and McCarthy on the other. And, could this have dated back to the NFC Championship game where he really went milquetoast and was really just very vanilla play calling that cost them the game? So then you enter in with the possibility, okay, we'll give Clements, who Aaron really trusts as a play caller. He's no longer the quarterback whisperer, but he's a play caller. Well, that experiment didn't work. The theory was, let's make him the play caller. Aaron trusted that he'll placate Aaron. Well, that didn't work, and so we went back to McCarthy, which, we all were happy when he got the play calling back. But you know what? We got what we got last year at the end. You got this vanilla, boring, predictable play calling that the entire league has caught on to, which, if you go back and take a step backwards, is just going to make a rift even worse. Do you think there's any validity to it, or do you think it's all hogwash? Annie, what do you think?
I think there's some validity. To it. I mean, if you don't trust your play caller, two things will happen. First, everything you do is going to be with a slight hesitation, and that already is going to throw your game off pretty significantly. But then also, if he's got less of a leash on him, then he might be audibling out of or into some things that he shouldn't be. And so then that's also going to affect the game and affect the way that they're calling plays. So I don't know how much validity there is to that specific situation, but I can see where, yes, this change in play calling may have been needed because Clements just wasn't looking out, but at the same time, there was not any time then to say, okay, here's how we're going to make this new. Here's how we're going to bring something special. Here's how we're going to work this out with the receivers. So even though we don't have Jordy, we've got this guy. Here's how we play to their strengths. Maybe he just wasn't able to sell them on it. And so the play calling, even though it's the same as McCarthy used to do, the guys aren't sold. And so they're out there kind of doing it a little hesitantly and not exactly fully invested in the play calling. And I think even a little bit of doubt like that, especially with the situation that we're in without Jordy, that would make a huge difference.
Colleen, what's your take on it?
I'm taken back to something that somebody told me about coaches and how much sway they have, especially in pro sports. To a certain extent, the players have to execute, obviously. But if you go back and you listen to what Jerry Kramer said about Vince Lombardi had a lot of sway. He knew how to manage people correctly. I think McCarthy, obviously, has known how to handle players, or he would not have a Super Bowl ring. He would not have some of the player praise and loyalty that he's had. But I will say that I think there's a time where that loyalty runs out. And I see it happening now. It took a lot longer with him than it has with a lot of other coaches. But I'm disappointed that he has not been able to make this work, and I do not think the problem with the offense this year was either him giving up the play calling or taking it back. I don't. There's something else going on. It may be a problem with him, but it's not a problem with the plays because, guys, they're not playing that much better. They didn't start playing better when McCarthy took it back over. They just didn't.
And I think, Rodgers is not blameless in this. He's a quarterback, so he's going to have an ego like all the other starting quarterbacks in the league. He's probably just as pig-headed as McCarthy. But he's also a little bit like my 9-year-old. A little volatile, who doesn't like being told what to do all the time. And with that type of personality, if you double down on them, they dig their heels in and it gets worse. It's like putting gasoline on a fire. And I think that's where McCarthy and Rodgers may be at this standoff, because now McCarthy's going to go old school coach and double down on Aaron, which is going to make him just even worse.
So here's an interesting thought. Remember when Favre and McCarthy had that come to Jesus meeting the night that Favre tried to come back?
Yeah.
Every quarterback gets that ego someday. They really do. Maybe Kurt Warner aside. But even he probably did. I just wonder if somebody wants to be in charge of the team, and the person that's supposed to be in charge of the team wants to be in charge of the team, and there's a little headbutting going on there. It wouldn't surprise me. And trust me, I didn't like Favre's personnel decisions, so I'm not going to trust Rodgers a whole lot with them either.
But at the same time,
Randy Moss,
other elite, quote unquote elite quarterbacks. You got Peyton, you got Brady. To a certain extent, they have a lot of latitude. Is like I said, something like Mark Trumer, I keep saying, Rodgers needs to fear his coach more. He needs to respect his coach more. Could it be the other way around, where McCarthy needs to respect the autonomy of an elite quarterback more? I think what's going to be really telling is, Jay, who's absent, so I'm going to quote him, has been saying for weeks there will be firings. I think the way I take it, and again, this is just my view on it, is if McCarthy cans Clemens, it's a way to double down on Aaron, because of all the coaches on the staff right now, Aaron trusts Clemens the most. He's said so as much. He has a very good working relationship with Tom Clemens. He was the quarterback whisperer for a while. And if he gets rid of Clemens, it's a way, I think, to try to control Aaron. And I think that'd be rather telling if he's the one that goes, because then he loses his ally on the coaching team. I could be off. What do you guys think?
I mean, maybe. I guess in the end, if that's the case, then the real issue here is clearly then the relationship between McCarthy and Rodgers. I mean, whether Clemens is there or not, that if that is not in at least a reasonable place, and he's feeling the need to potentially fire somebody or whatever the case may be, just to tell Aaron, hey, this is my team, you do what I say, blah, 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 then there is so much more going on here, so many more issues here than just, Clemens and Rodgers versus McCarthy. So I would like to think that that is not the case. And then I also have to step back and say, okay, the offense has been kind of tanked. We lost Ty Montgomery. We lost Jordy at the beginning of the season. The offense really started tanking in week 6 with Denver. And, I mean, we've won a few games since then. We got 10 wins or whatever. I think we had 10 wins. I actually don't remember right now. But it's not like we did make the playoffs. It's not like it's like I want to feel like I don't need to panic that much, I guess. But at the same time, it's just maybe just a trend is very disconcerting. But I try to see it a little more positively than that. But at the same time, there's got to be some relationship issues there. And I'm not suggesting any personal relationships. I'm talking working relationships here. Something is amok because people are off. And who knows, but I do think that there will be people getting fired. I think that is an accurate statement. I don't know who, but I do think that there will be people getting fired.
And, I thought of this, as I was driving home tonight. When you have two very strong-willed leaders, and I'm not going to say Rodgers is a peer to McCarthy because McCarthy's the coach, Rodgers is the quarterback. But sometimes power over isn't as successful as power with. And I wonder if they've lost the collaboration. Where that power with which, you value the other person's opinion, you're working together towards a common good, has been replaced with my way or the highway. Which, like I said, if he's like my 9-year-old, I go my way or the highway with her, and, I'm just waiting for 3, 2, 1, kerboom. Colleen, you want to add anything to this?
The only thing I can add to this right now is that if this Mongolian you-know-what happens in Washington next weekend, I just can't even. I do love the Packers. I will always love the Packers, but, oh, my Lord, this has to stop.
I think it will, unfortunately. I don't think that the issues that they're having are going to be solved as quickly as we hope. I don't think it's going to take one come-to-Jesus meeting and then, boom, everything's fine. I think that there is a systemic problem that has been trending for weeks. And yeah, maybe I shouldn't panic but it's been 10 weeks since there's been any really good. I mean, yeah, we had our awesome, Hail Mary game and blah, blah, blah. But against the Lions, we shouldn't even be having to have a Hail Mary game against the Lions. And losing at home to all 3 division rivals, what the swear word is that all about? I mean, so yeah, that's all very disconcerting. And so, yeah, I just feel like what is going on, whether it's a relationship issue or things that need to be repaired or larger problems with play calling and stuff, it's not going to be fixed in a week. Like, I really don't have a lot of hope for this game, if I'm being honest. And I'm a very, very generally positive Packer fan, but let me tell you, I think we're going to make Kirk Cousins look like he's better than Aaron Rodgers this week.
So it all sounds like there's going to be some off-season personnel changes. You got the JS comments, brain trusting Trey Rodgers, which is laughable. We're stuck with them, warts and all, but I think it's important to remember, at his worst, he is still better than some of the quarterbacks in the league. We're talking about a guy who threw for over 30 touchdowns this year and still only had like 67 interceptions and had a quarterback rating at the end of the season at 92. It's his lowest quarterback rating ever, but it's still envious of for many in the league. So worse than all, I'm willing to take Rodgers because I think he hasn't regressed to the point that he's never going to be the MVP caliber quarterback that he was. I think it's still in him. We just still have to rediscover it. But so if you're gonna, do you think they're gonna keep McCarthy or they're gonna can him? I'm just gonna be blunt. What do you guys think?
I think they keep him. I think they're going to keep McCarthy. I think they're going to fire a bunch of other people, but I think they're going to keep McCarthy, honestly. I don't know what they're going to do. I don't know if they've had I'm assuming there's been a lot of conversations had in the background of, okay, here's what I need or want done in order to make put this team back together again. Here are my ideas. And if Ted likes them, I don't know. I don't think McCarthy will be fired, though. That is my guess. I don't know about the other questions, but not McCarthy.
Ted is not going to get rid of Mike, and here's my theory, my thinking. And I think Jay would agree with me on this, and I think you guys probably might too. But so the fact of the matter is that Ted is approaching the end of his reign, let's face it. As much as I like him, and I do, I think he's done a great job. Overall, he has his flaws. We all do. If he hires a new coach and then he retires, that coach will be fired. That's kind of how that works. They're a package deal. So he's not going to fire McCarthy. I think they both have one more year, and if next year doesn't prove to be a fruitful one, they're both gone. And there's a new coach, and there's a new GM. And, yes, I think there will be mass firings this year. God knows there should be, or something. Something should happen. Good Lord.
I personally think McCarthy has reached his expiration date, and I'm not being a reactionary fangirl here. To quote Chris Christofico from Titletown Soundoff, McCarthy still has a lot of coaching with him, but chances are it's been 5 years since he won the Super Bowl. A handful of one-and-outs. Last year they came with a few stupid bonehead plays that he called of winning it all. They'd won that onside kick. But there's been so much regression right now, and if the animosity in the locker room is true as what a lot of people think it is, that may be something that's irreparable. What I think and what will happen are probably two different things. I think Colleen's right. You can't bring in a new head coach and then a new GM because our new head coach is going to be gone. I think if the Packers wanted to look forward and not waste the season, but let's see what happens. Say the GM is going to be Elliott Wolf. Then I think the possibility of that head coach actually having a fighting chance of surviving would be a reality, because I think that may be a collaborative decision with Ted and whoever his successor is, especially if he's an internal successor. But I have this bad feeling we're going to get stuck with him for another year, and I think it's only going to get worse. They're going to have. I've been talking with friends saying, I don't think we've seen the bottom drop out, and I think the bottom's going to drop out next week. And then it's going to have to be, do we want to cut our losses now or suffer for another year of poor communication and resentment in the locker room? The last thing the Packers did is a line drawn in the locker room. You're with Rodgers on the line or you're with everybody else, because that isn't healthy. That's really not healthy. So my next question is, okay, so you're now the general manager. You've committed to McCarthy. How would you change the offensive staff? Who would you keep? Who would you cut? And what would you do? So the stage is yours, Annie. What would you do? Well, McCarthy stays. What was the scenario with McCarthy stays?
Okay, assuming McCarthy stays, I think Tom Clements is gone. I think Edgar Bennett is gone. I think I realize that Tom Clements is an assistant coach, but I think Edgar Bennett's going to be gone. I think that somebody, whether they bring back Philbin or they, bring somebody that's fresh into the system. Edgar's been working his way up through our system, but at the same time, I think there's something to be said for some fresh faces. I think there's something to be said for some excitement and something new and proven but new to the organization. So honestly, I think they're going to do probably a fairly significant top-down offensive shuffle, honestly, or they demote Edgar back to running back or wide receiver coach or something like that, because maybe he is a great motivator and maybe that is a position that works for him. But clearly, the offense as it is not working, so I think he at a minimum goes, and I think Clements is going to go too.
Okay, now the follow-up is, that's what you think will happen. If you were general manager, what would you do? So now you're not thinking like
rationally.
Now you're thinking You think what would Annie do if given that situation?
Gosh, here's the problem. I don't really pay close enough attention to the coaches to really have a solid, reasonable opinion on that. But I think in terms of the offense, if I had my way, I would find somebody to be the offensive coordinator who has a similar skill set but is able to be a good motivator, who's able to bring a lot of excitement to the guys, because McCarthy can get excited, but he's not exactly this happy motivator. I would like a guy as much as a turd waffle he can be, a Josh McDaniels style guy where, I think that, he knows how to use the run fairly effectively. He brings in some exciting play calling. He's, able, obviously, to run a quarterback-heavy, wide receiver-heavy type of offense quite well. And bring in a guy like that with the theory that he'll bring some of his guys with him to coach with him and just really infuse the whole situation, the whole offensive situation with some fresh blood. That would be what I would want to do. I would want to bring some guys that are kind of a part of a package deal who already have experience with each other, experience with a successful offense, and go from there. That's probably what I would do. But I think they're going to parse it. I don't think they're going to do a whole big fire all the people. I think there's going to be some selective firing, and I don't know if that's necessarily the right move, but I'm not the GM, so yeah.
All right, Colleen, first, what do you think will happen? And then follow up with what would you do?
I think Clements is gone. I think there's a shakeup. I'd love to see Philbin come back, but that would be the next part of it. There definitely needs to be a shakeup, and I think McCarthy's smart enough to see that, no matter what his shortcomings or failings are at this point. So what would I do? I would keep Edgar Bennett. The problem is you've got Clements calling the plays. You've got Edgar Bennett being the assistant head coach or whatever the hell he is.
No, Clements is the assistant head coach, and
he's the offensive coordinator. That makes the whole thing. I came from HR. This whole structure makes no sense to me. So that's why I get really confused with it. So I would say simplify your structure, Mike. If I was Mike, that's exactly what I do. I would have someone calling plays that probably isn't him, because I still think it was a good idea for him not to call plays. That could involve bringing Philbin back in. I would love bringing Philbin back in. I think he did a fantastic job with the offense. They loved him. He did not call plays, but he did great game prep, far better game prep than we've seen this year. So I would can Clements. I would bring Philbin back if I could, and I would have McCarthy be a real head coach. I don't think he's capable. I think he's too much like Lombardi. He wants his fingers in all the pies, and especially the offensive pie, because Lombardi always ran the offensive meetings. I don't think McCarthy can pull himself out of that. But if I were him, if I were in charge, if I were Ted, I would get him to be more of a head coach and less of an offensive coordinator.
Gotcha. All right, my take. First, what do you think McCarthy will do, and it's going to be the edict of change it or you're out. Like I said before, I think if he gets rid of Tom Clements, it's to strip down Aaron Rodgers and put him in his place, because this is the one coach Aaron has said time and time again he really trusts. He was, I do believe, in 2010, the quarterback coach. He has a very good working relationship with Clements. He trusts Clements. What I think will end up happening is he'll name Edgar Bennett the play caller. I don't know if that is a solution, but I think that's what's going to happen, because there'll be one, just like last year, there was one sacrificial firing, and it was Slocum. And in the grand scheme of things, who cares? You know, it was the special teams coach. There was no skin off anyone's teeth to get rid of. Not that Zook has done any better. So I think he will make the sacrificial lamb be Clements, mainly to control Rodgers. And then they'll do away with this assistant head coach BS on the offense, because it really was just kind of like I'm captain of the elevator, we're stopping at every floor. Now, for what I think should happen is, if Kelly was the head coach or general manager, is, first of all, I think that the current, and I'm having a complete brain fart, Alex Van Pelt, is the coach of both the quarterbacks and the wide receivers this year. And if you look at what ails the most, it's the quarterbacks and the wide receivers working together. You would think if they had one coach, communication would be better. It's terrible. I think you either get rid of him or you demote him back to wide receivers coach. Doing both is a disaster. It's an experiment that failed, and I think you could still have the same mutual meeting room, but you need a dedicated quarterback risk whisperer for Aaron. He needs somebody he can trust. He needs somebody that can manage him too. His ego, his insecurities, his underwear on backwards, it doesn't matter. You know, he needs somebody to manage him and help coach him. So I think very much still very coachable. But if you think about it, he's also had several quarterbacks coaches and several offensive coordinator changes since they won the Super Bowl. And when Philbin left, he took it personally. Remember when talking on Tuesdays with Aaron with Wildy, it hit him. So I think you need to take the quarterback coaching duties away from Van Pelt, make him a wide receivers coach again. I think if you had to have a sacrificial lamb, it's going to be Edgar Bennett, which I think, why, I don't know, but I think it's I don't know if he got promoted too high up too quickly. He was great as a position coach. I don't know.
I'd be almost willing to keep him on. But I think you need either – I love the idea of bringing Philbin back, but maybe we need some fresh blood, like Annie said, altogether as an offensive coordinator. But that said, you have to have a quarterbacks coach, which is like Tom Clements or Philbin. And if you really want to have power with instead of power over, this sounds silly, I may ask Aaron, what would be your ideal coach? You know, does he get to make the final decision? Of course not. But I think his opinion in this would be beneficial. It's like in our office, we're hiring a partner. It isn't just the chairman of the partner making that decision. We all kind of give our input. And I think his input on who coaches them may be helpful, because I think the first step in managing Aaron Rodgers is gaining his trust. And then he's going to listen to you more instead of coming down on him like a ton of bricks. So I may be that consistent with somebody he knows and trusts, but I think I'm leaning more towards going for a totally different and new offensive coordinator. That's what I would do if I was the general manager or the head coach.
Makes sense.
So does that make sense?
Yes, it does.
But I think a lot of people forget that Alex had page. What?
I just want things to get better.
I think we're all kind of on the same page.
And that sounds silly, and maybe this is just the HR part of the experience interface I've had. But it sounds like you have two different communication styles with McCarthy and Rodgers, and the leadership of the team as well as the leadership and the coaching staff. Have they ever done a Myers-Briggs to figure out what their communication and personality styles are? Because sometimes if you understand the differences, then you don't butt heads nearly as much. It sounds like a hold hands, sing kumbaya type activity, but sometimes there's a lot to be gained from that.
I would bet they have done that kind of thing. McCarthy seems to be about thinking through that stuff. However, I can safely say, from having done Myers-Briggs and been on a management team and still really wanting to beat my boss with a baseball bat on an almost daily basis, even though I understood her, it doesn't always help.
And this is a caveat. This is her former
I'm not
job.
talking about my current job, people. This was years ago in Utah. I'm just saying.
But,
I don't even remember what my Myers-Briggs is.
I am an ENTP, just like C.B. Angeli. We're the gregarious, in-your-face, let us do it for you type. What's micromanagement? Because I'll let me do it. Type A personalities. And that, they're the obnoxious extroverts, where you'd find out with Aaron Rodgers that he's very introverted and very analytical.
INTJ. He's me.
Yeah, he is. Maybe SJ too. So. But that
Also,
personality type, like for example, my personality type would clash like that because I'm married to an introvert. We've learned over the years how to communicate, and sometimes we still fail miserably. But I think you need to understand where these guys are coming from, their communication skills, and I think it needs to be addressed. And I think there needs to be major management changes because what the current configuration is doesn't work.
I agree.
So anything else we want to rehash about the offense and the coaches and our quarterback?
I can't.
Oh, my God.
Impressed.
All right, my last bit, I want to just mention to Erin, it's like, God bless you for trying to be optimistic in a soundbite. It's like in his press conference, she's like, kind of like McCarthy. It's like, we'll be the team we want to be, and we're right where we need to be. And it's like, okay, Aaron's making lemonade. Unfortunately, he doesn't have lemons. He has a big steaming pile of dog poop. So you keep trying to make lemonade with your dog poop, honey. I'm still not going to drink it.
As your brother would famously say, I wanted to shank him in the neck when he said that.
That's okay.
Really? No.
That's okay. I threatened to fly down to Georgia.
I am not drinking your Kool-Aid. I love the Green Bay Packers. I think you're a great quarterback. I am not drinking your Kool-Aid. I want to shank you in the neck for making that kind of statement. Just kind of like McCarthy this morning. It's like, sir, just shut the hell up and say, you know what? We're really playing bad. We need to get our shit together. Sorry. I just said it.
Hot pocket.
But wouldn't that be more refreshing if he did say that?
Oh, come on.
That's what he's thinking. You know that's what he's thinking.
No, Aaron, I don't want your poopy flavored lollipop. Go away. Oh, bless him for trying to make lemonade out of dog poop. You know?
That's what he's thinking. He's thinking we suck, and I don't know what to do about it. That's what he's thinking.
It's like fish or cut bait. And I think we are to the fish or cut bait part of the season. It's like, okay, however they could even win the Super Bowl. You know, I think I have a better chance of monkeys flying out of my butt at this point. But yeah, they could win the Super Bowl, but I think they still have a very ugly postseason coming up. Where they have to have some, you know, when you talk about gut checking has yet to happen. It's going to be ugly. It's going to be uncomfortable. You know, there could be tears. There's going to be animosity. There's going to be hard feelings. But I think this team is ready for it to come to Jesus talk. So, in the last 10 minutes, we have at least one game left this season.
At least.
At least. So we play the Washington racial pejoratives. I'm not going to say their name. Oh, my God, because I live in
I'm not Washington.
It's Washington. It is. I think I said it earlier, but
it's Washington. We play there. Is it a Sunday or a Saturday game? I know it's the late afternoon game.
Sunday, as I understand it.
All right, so we go on the road. Part of me is happy we don't have to play the Vikings 2 weeks in a row because beating the Vikings 3 times in a season is nigh on impossible. We've proven it in the past. Beating any team 3 times in one season is nigh on impossible. And besides, wouldn't it be delightful if they managed to knock the Seahawks out of the contention?
That would be hilarious.
It's like, I guess I'm cheering for the Vikings next week.
I would be totally.
I'd be all over that.
Be all over that. But the only way we can host the NFC Championship game is if it's against the Seahawks. Which would be fun, too.
I am not scared to go back to prison. I will cheer for the Vikings. It's fine.
I don't want to lose to the Seahawks because my aunt and uncle are insufferable bandwagoners. It's like, go Hawks! And I'm like, aren't you from Detroit? And didn't you cheer for the Vikings when you lived in Minnesota while you were there too? Pick a team and stick with it. At least I am consistent and have liked the same team since the 70s. I can't say that about my bandwagoning family members.
Mm-hmm.
At least my aunt's sister, my mom, will at least cheer for the Lions, even though she can't name anyone other than Megatron. She's at least consistent. So, we go to Washington, and Kirk Cousins. Who knew Kirk Cousins was ever going to get hot? Go figure. But, again, any team could get hot. If I want to be optimistic, yes, we can win it all at 20 to 1 odds. I think the season's going to end next week, and it's going to be just a downer, and it's going to be gnashing of teeth, running of garments all over again.
Yep.
But I think I'm prepared, unlike last year, which I was within 15 minutes of buying a ticket and going and wasting my flooring budget. I redid my living room floor on a Super Bowl ticket. I think I'm prepared for them to lose this week, and I think they're going to. And it's a real downer prediction, but I'm just being realistic. So around the horn, you think they're going to win or they're going to lose?
I think they're going to lose, unfortunately. I think that there's just – I had some hope up until the last couple of weeks. I was like, we could totally 2010 this thing and, gain steam in the last couple games and just plow into the playoffs just boom, boom, boom. But it's not. That is not us right now. Right now we have no – I hate to use the M word, momentum, but we don't have any momentum. We don't seem to have any fire under our butts. We don't seem to have our play calling together. The team seems fragmented. People are snipey. Coaches are snipey, for crying out loud. Listening to McCarthy today, I feel like things are fragmented, and I just don't see how going into the playoffs, already essentially an underdog. I mean, I don't know what the over/under is going to be on this game, but or the line's going to be on this game. But I don't know. I don't think that we win. And you know what? I'm ready for it. I'm ready to be done with this season. I will be okay with it if we lose. I will. Honestly, unfortunately, that makes me not a true fan, but I'm okay with it if we lose.
honestly, if they lose, I think it forces change more.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's good.
So, Colleen, are you thinking they're going to win, being the optimist? Are you a poopy-flavored lollipop like the two of us and say they're going to lose?
Let's put it this way. If it will make fans like the guy that ate my food at the bar on Holmgren Way, thank you,
The
go
corner
away
of
and not be
Holmgren
fans
McCarthy
of the Packers anymore, I hope they lose because we don't need people like that. We need them to get off the bandwagon. So, do I hope they lose? No. Do I think they will? Yeah, I'm pretty sure they're going to lose. I
think we're already.
I saw a very distributed team out there last night.
And I mentioned this to a friend when we were driving home last night. It seems kind of like in hospice right now. It's like, they're going to die. It's going to be bad. But at the same time, I think there's going to be relief with the end of the season. It's like, oh, my God, it's over.
Yep.
So, unfortunately, the 2015 Packers are in hospice. But I'm okay with that because
they're a hot mess.
They're a hot mess, and
they're not as much fun. What's that part?
And you look at ARodg, and God Almighty, he looks like he hates his job right now. It's like he never smiles. He doesn't look like there's any joy in what he does on the field. So whatever.
Other than the Hail Mary.
Yeah, except for the Hail Mary, then it was like all the field. But whether it's professional problems, personal problems, bad breath, head cold, underwear on backwards, flat tire, I guess it doesn't matter. He has the whole offseason to get his chiz together again. And I hope he does. Because I don't think he's a bad quarterback. He still is that MVP quality quarterback. He just isn't it this year.
He is. It's just not happening right now. It's just not happening.
So, Aaron, I know you're not listening, but if you are listening, get your act together, whatever it is. And if it's underwear on backwards, God Almighty, turn them around.
Yeah. Tell Olivia which way to put them on, turn them around, and get I mean, because if we can't do anything, can we not dress these men? Period. I mean,
that has been a problem with my 9-year-old. It's like she's like wiggling around, like, what's wrong? She's like, I think my underwear on backwards. I'm like, well, you go to the bathroom and change it. Not a hard fix there. So yes, I have compared our fickle quarterback to the divine Miss Lowe. Of
course, Lord,
twice in this show. Oh. So look, it's the bottom of the hour. And I guess we'll be back next week because we have at least one show to go, and then we'll probably come back for the draft and intermittently throughout the off season. Maybe we'll take a hiatus. We don't know.
Bama one.
Hey, look!
January 1st.
Roll Tide. Roll Tide. Roll up the shade. Credit. Roll credit.
Eddie Lacy, Mike Daniels, Gilbert Brown, Don Barclay, Micah Hyde, your Green Bay Packers, yesterday's legends and today's superstars. From corporate or nonprofit events to private parties, add some spice, hire a Packers player from Mayfield Sports Marketing. For details, just go to PackersTalk.com and click on Player Appearances.
Are you looking for some signed Packer memorabilia?
Look no further than Waukesha Sports Card.
If the Green Bay Packer can sign it, Waukesha Sports Cards has it.
Check our website for upcoming Packer player and legend signings.
Go to WaukeshaSportsCards.com.